Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up the smart carts for some collisions. First off, these are like 200 bucks a piece, so please be careful with them. Don't let them fall off the end of the track. To power them on and off, there is a button on the side here, and you're going to just hold that button down. You probably can't see in the video, but if it's unconnected and is flashing red, that means it's powered on. So you'll just hold that to power it on. To power it off, just hold this button for like 5 seconds. The ID, I'm going to talk about that in a later video. The ID is right under here, under the barcode, and you're going to look at the last 2 digits. I find that to be the most useful. So to change the mass of the cart, you're going to use these masses here, and I can put however many you want on there. In the activity, it may say 1 mass is given to you. If it's not labeled on there, you just need to go and choose a cart and get the mass using the electronic balance. For any of these, don't have the masses be exactly the same unless it says to do that. So in general, what I would do is I would add a couple masses to one and then not to the other. If you're looking for one of the masses, make sure it's different than what it was before, so you can do the calculations and see what it is. So that's how you change the masses, and you need to measure the mass if it's not given to you. Measuring force. So there's a force sensor built in to the end of the smart cart here. And you'll see there's a couple different attachments. This is a little rubber bumper, this is a hook, and this is a hoop spring. The hoop spring is what you're going to use to measure force anytime. If your cart doesn't have a hoop spring on it, you're just going to unscrew whatever piece it has on there. When you unscrew it, you're not just going to throw it on the lab table. You're going to return it to where all the equipment is. If you don't know where that is, ask your teacher. We don't want these things to be lost or eaten or anything like that. So then I would just kind of do the opposite thing and then screw this hoop spring into there. Using the hoop spring, so when it makes a collision, that collision happens over a long period of time and you can get a better force measurement. To zero the force sensor, when you first connect this, I'll show this on the next part of the video, but you must zero this force sensor when nothing's touching it. So if you have it sitting like this, pushing against something, and you zero it, everything's gonna be wrong. Make sure you zero the force sensor. So one thing we can do is we could collide these carts into each other, and we could measure this force. We could also collide them like into a wall or something. The other option is an explosion. So that's the other end of the cart. There is this little button here, and we press it, there's a spring that is released and it's launched out. So you can do this, and you'll notice the carts are kind of doing something funky here. I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm lining these up and I hit the button and then they explode. So that would be like an explosion. To bounce them off each other, I could use the hoop spring and do that, or I can use magnets. You kind of saw them doing that here in a second. On the end, you see how this one's missing one? This one has one. You may have both of them. You may only have one of them. There's an N on here for north. And so you want those ends facing out. So both of these have magnets in them and they're gonna repel each other. So when I come close, ooh, they repel. They're on here so they're not gonna slide easily. But we can do a really nice collision with magnets and bounce off each other like that. Do not just take these magnets and then stick them to random things and leave them. If you don't need them and they're falling out, return them to the equipment table. The other thing you're gonna have to measure is velocity. That's gonna be with all the smart aspects of the cart, and when you're gonna have a velocity versus time graph, and you'll get that off of there. There's an arrow here, it says plus X. This, for the default for the cart, means this is the positive direction. So for instance, if the cart was moving this way, that would be a positive velocity, this way would be a negative velocity. If I turn it around, now this way is a positive velocity and this way is a negative velocity. Sometimes you want to switch that, and I'll show you how to switch that for the position will be what you want to switch it for, which will be the velocity. And so it'll be backwards, and that'll be a way to make your life easier. With this activity in general, you have to think about what you're doing, read through the instructions first before you just start doing everything, ask questions if you're not sure, and don't lose the stuff. If something comes unscrewed and you can't figure out how to put it back together, ask your teacher rather than just eating it or whatever students do that make those things disappear. So think about what you're doing and ask questions. All right, I'm going to show you next how to connect this to your iPad. All right, you're going to use graphical. It's this one right here. That's the icon. If it looks like something else with like a little ribbon across it, it's the wrong one. So you need graphical analysis, not graphical analysis GW. Here's the screen it's going to open up to. If you already hit X on this because you didn't, I don't know, you're just messing around with it, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's that little meat thermometer thing. You're going to press that and it'll get you to the right point. If you're here, you're going to hit sensor data collection. So hit sensor data collection. If from down here, you just hit that and that's where it's going to bring you. Now you'll see I see 2 carts here. When you do this, there's going to be a bunch more carts because everyone will have their carts on. So you need to look at the last 2 digits under the barcode, and one here of these is F6, and you can just type F6 here, and then it filters them all out, and I can hit connect. And my other one is R5. It'll take a second to connect here. So I can do R5, and we don't hit done yet. So I have them both connected. If I hit sensor channels, you see this little drop down, and only position is checked. For some of these activities, you just need position, but if you're measuring the force, you're gonna need to check force on there. So you could have it checked for all of them, but if you're just doing position or just doing force, you could uncheck the other, but it doesn't matter. And then you're gonna hit done. Now, there's a lot of stuff on this screen. First, I want you to look in the bottom right-hand corner. This is going to be one of the most important things, where it says force Y and force G. Right now, you can't see my lab cards, but they're just sitting there. There's no force on them, but it says there is. So you need to tap that, and you're going to need to hit 0. 0. So now I've calibrated it with nothing pushing or pulling on it. The other thing we see here is we see a reverse button on there. And the same thing here with the position. So when we talked about the positive X direction being the direction of the arrow, if you need to turn that around and make it be the other direction, you're gonna hit 0. So this will make all the position values switched for the yellow one, and this would make all the force values switched for that one. I don't think you'll ever need to do that with force, but for the position, you'll probably wanna do that. Now we look at the graph. So we have 3 different graphs here. Depends on what we want. I would try to pare it down. I'm gonna just do one graph here. And the left-hand side, that y-axis is gonna be super important. So if I am colliding these 2 carts together and I need the velocity before and after, I'm probably gonna turn off the force if I'm not measuring that, and I just need to turn on velocity for Y and velocity for green. This way, when I hit collect and my cart moves, it'll show me the velocities, okay? If you want to do position or you need force or any of those things, you can change them on here. You could also make it 2 graphs at once. By default, in the bottom left-hand corner where it said mode time-based rate 50 samples, and you tap that, it'll give you the data collection settings. So this is where you can change the sample rate if needed. And the end collection, see how it says 5 seconds? You could change, if it's stopping your data collection before you're done, you could change this to manually, or you can change it to 10 seconds or whatever. But there'll be some times in the lab where it'll tell you, oh, you need to up your sample rate to 500 samples per second. So you'll need to do that there. And how do you take another trial? You just hit collect again. So just hit collect again, and then it's all blanked out. And so I'm moving those back and forth, and we see it. And see there, it just stopped automatically after 5 seconds. So if you don't like that, you can definitely change that. And that's how you deal with getting data from these carts.